Today we're going to take a closer look at another one of the coolest Honda CT125 builds that I've ever seen. And yes, it's not a 125 anymore, but we'll dive more into that shortly as we break down the laundry list of goodies installed on this Trail 125 that's also known as the Hunter Cub around the world, so you can see just what's possible when it comes to modifying these mini bikes from Honda. But first, how did we end up here? Well, Wayne down at the speed shop gave me a call.
The phone. I'm calling Kevin.
So I had to race down to Georgia to see what kind of craziness he was up to, because his motorcycle builds are on another level. And if you haven't seen some of my past videos highlighting just a tiny fraction of what he's built, they're linked below. And with that being said, let's dive into the meat and potatoes on this absolutely beautiful CT181. And don't forget to let me know what you guys think about this bike down in the comments, as part of the fun is talking about it all. We'll start off first with some of the accessories from MotoSkill that are being put to good use on this Trail 125. As many of you know, storage isn't really a commodity you have on the CT125, aside from the rear cargo rack that does open up a ton of different storage options, but besides that, you're up a creek without a paddle. And that's where this center rack comes in handy, as it gives you somewhere else to strap stuff or mount different things and so on. Plus, if you're needing even more cargo room to turn this into the ultimate little adventure and dual sport motorcycle with added protection to boot, you've got this MotoSkill headlight guard with a little cargo rack on top of it. And while on the topic of adventure, the stock 1.4 gallon fuel tank leaves a lot to be desired for those that are really wanting to put some miles on these or head off the beaten path to where gas stations are few and far between, which ties us into the MotoSkill multi-purpose side rack for the Trail 125. This little piece helps open up the possibilities of what you can mount to the side of your bike, and here they opted to use it for mounting up a 1.3 gallon jerry can, so you've got plenty of fuel and hopefully won't end up having to push her anytime soon. And to finish off the MotoSkill accessories installed on this CT125, it also had its stock crash bars swapped out in favor of the V2 MotoSkill crash bars that loop out further than these stock bars for some added protection. And when I say this bike needs all the protection it can get, I'm not playing around. But why? Well, that absolutely beautiful paint job from Kurt at National Superbike down in Georgia wasn't cheap by any means. The color is called Furious Fuchsia Pearl, and I know I've said it a million times now, and that video just doesn't do these pearlescent colors justice in the least bit, and it holds true here. Now, this color may look familiar to some of you Dodge fans out there, but that's not why the owner chose to go this route. Kara, the owner of this bike, has a YouTube channel called Ozark Overland Adventures, and her pride and joy just so happens to be a Jeep that's painted in the exact same color, which, needless to say, is pretty awesome and quite the attention grabber for sure. Back to the bike though, as we've still got some goodies to go over. Those crash bars that we covered earlier not only help in the event of a tip over, but they also give you somewhere to mount additional lighting on the CT125. That's where these KC lights come into play to match her Jeep's KC setup, and these are the KC Hilites 2-inch C2 LED auxiliary lights with flood beams to help bring a bit more visibility your way when you head off the beaten path, which is what this little bike is all about. And while you're trekking off-road, those Barkbuster handguards help to add some more protection for your hands, while the Kemimoto bar risers help to bring the handlebars up to a more comfortable position for Kara. And speaking of comfort, they also decided to swap out the rather plain Jane and not so comfortable stock seat for what some consider to be the best in the business, a Corbin seat. It's wrapped in black leather with white stitching and paired up with their FiberTech base pan and comfort cell foam. You'll be thanking yourself for spending so much money on your butt.
Seriously, Kevin.
And speaking of money, no expense was spared when it comes to building this CT125 engine with a big bore kit and a 5-speed transmission.
Are you serious?
Yep, a 5-speed among many other little odds and ends. And if you've ever ridden one of these in stock form, you probably found yourself itching for a bit more horsepower and a higher top speed on the Trail 125, and that's where this Kitaco Neo 181cc big bore kit comes into play, packing a forged piston, rod, and crankshaft, as well as their matching high performance head, which can take you from about 9 horsepower at the crank to dynoing out at around 20, give or take, depending on the supporting modifications, to which this bike has plenty of. And we've also got some supporting mods that you can see, like the oil cooler to help keep temps down and everything flowing like it should. And speaking of flow, if you want to make more horsepower, you need more airflow, and that's why the stock 24mm throttle body was swapped out for a 34mm setup, and the entire snorkel intake setup was upgraded to match with a K&N air filter. And of course, if you're bringing in more air, you need to let it out, and that's why the stock exhaust was swapped out for this absolutely beautiful full titanium over racing exhaust that's also 6 pounds lighter. Now, are we really going to make all of this extra horsepower in a CT125 and stick with the stock 4-speed transmission? Nope. This CT is sporting the Takegawa 5-speed transmission, with the first gear being a little taller, while second through fourth are a bit shorter, and fifth comes in to match the stock 4th gear. And pairing up this transmission with that big bore kit helps the Trail CT125 hit a top speed of around 75 miles per hour with a comfortable cruising speed of 65, which, needless to say, is a healthy bump over a stock 125. But having all of these performance goodies does you no good if you can't keep tabs on what your engine is doing in real time. And Honda kinda handicaps you if you want to ride this bike in a spirited fashion or do any serious modifications, as you don't have a tachometer to tell how high you're wringing her neck, and that's a problem. So we've got the OPMID gauge display that has way too many cool features to break down, as it puts you guys to sleep quicker than my talking nerdy does. Wake up. Then, to fine-tune all of these performance mods to the CT181, we've got a standalone ECU setup with the aRacer Mini X to fine-tune things, and their AF2 wideband help keep tabs on your air-to-fuel ratios. And help you put all of that horsepower to the ground, you've got a set of more trail-friendly and vintage-style Duro HF308 tires that were thrown on here to replace the factory IRC rubber. Plus, while we're talking about tires, it's hard not to spot the reflective rim tape, and while they weren't installed by Wayne, they add a bit more flavor to the overall styling and are from Custom Tailor 33. And now, I'm curious, what do you guys think about this build? I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but let's talk about it all down in the comments, and let me know if you guys think any of these mods or colors from past models we've covered should make their way to our stock CT125 models. Honda does pay attention to these videos, so let your voices be heard down in the comments section, and let's talk about it all. Next up, I've got to give a massive shout out to Wayne at the Speed Shop down in Villa Rica, Georgia. You couldn't meet a nicer guy, and he's opened up his home to me on multiple occasions now to film some of the bikes he's built, and I can't say thank you enough to him and his son for going out of their way to help me capture these bikes so I can share it with you guys. If you're into customizing and modifying mini bikes, from the Honda Grom to the Monkey 125, CT125, Super Cub, and many others, check out his info link below for more info on his build services and his line of parts too. With that being said though, thanks for watching, and a huge thank you to our channel members and Patreons for helping to keep this train chugging along, and we'll see you guys in the next one.